Hello friends, welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University, Hyderabad. As part of BA Sociology first year, second semester, we are trying to understand certain topics like challenges for social transformation. In that broad subject, today we will be going to discussing that social and economic inequalities. So, let us go and discuss in detail. Before that, we will try to understand what is inequality. Inequality is often differentiated in terms of inequality of outcomes such as income, wealth and expenditure, and inequality of opportunities, which is also attributed to differences in circumstances beyond the individual's control such as gender, ethnicity, location of birth or family background. So, this is completely out of the control of the individual. So, we need to understand inequality of outcomes arises from a combination of differences in opportunities and individuals' efforts and talent. This concept we need to understand. According to American philosopher John Rawls, in his book titled A Theory of Justice, what he mentioned and what he argues that distribution of opportunities and outcomes is equally important and informative to understand the nature and extent of inequality around the world. So, this is the wonderful argue he has made. Now, let us try to understand at what extent these inequalities are good, at what extent these inequalities are not supposed to be there. Now, some degree, for example, at certain degree inequality may not be a problem. For example, since that inequality is present, that will help people to excel, people to compete, people to invest, move ahead, means certain extent of inequality help other individual or other groups to move ahead. But the gap should not be very huge, that we need to understand. Now, according to the Indian Constitution, equality is also is a right, means right to equality is there. As part of the fundamental rights, right to equality includes equality before the law. That is one point, and the second one is prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, gender or place of birth, or equality of opportunities, means there is a no discrimination should be there. These are the things which is clearly mentioned in Article 14, Article 15 of Indian Constitution. Now, in the recent years, with regarding to this inequality, International Monetary Fund, World Bank and other organizations like the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, we call it as OECD, and Davos meetings, they have been talking more about these inequalities. A large attention of international groups and international communities started discussing on these inequalities. Why? Because we need to understand the number of billionaires is increasing throughout the world with a larger share in income and wealth, means the large number of good number of billionaires is increasing throughout the world with a large share in income and wealth. The writings of a French economist Thomas Piketty, he has written in 2014, has encouraged more debate and discussion on inequality in several parts of the world. So, we need to understand the inequality among the people has been arising with regard to income, with regard to wealth. We need to accept it and need to work out it. And now let us try to understand the socio-economic inequalities. In our lesson, particularly we need to understand the socio-economic inequalities. What is the definition? How to understand this socio socio-economic inequalities. Means socio-economic inequality can be defined as a individual's socio-economic status, as a person's social economic position in relation to others, based on income, based on education and occupation. So, socio-economic inequality refers to a broad measure of inequality. This is not a small thing and it is not a simple thing. It is a very broad sense of understanding to measure. It tries to capture social inequality, means is societal inequality along with both income also, means wealth also. And here we need to understand the income and also non-income dimensions can be measured in social economic inequalities, that we need to understand. Now, let us try to understand little bit more about this social inequalities. How this social inequalities occurs, means social inequality occurs due to various reasons. When we see in our society, whether it is in rural or whether it is in urban, there is a lot of hierarchies are there. These hierarchies are with regarding to through by power. Sometimes the society is stratified, and sometimes by religion, sometimes by kinship, sometimes by race, sometimes the ethnicity, sometimes it is part of gender, and sometimes it is part of sexual orientation and class. These are all part of our social inequalities. These are the features or characteristics which creates a divide, a division among the society, where the hierarchy will be developed. Now, let us also try to understand the link between social inequality and its link to economic inequality. So, social inequality linked with economic inequality is usually described on the basis of unequal distribution of income or wealth. So, if in a given society, if the income or wealth is unequally distributed, then the issue of social inequality as well as economic inequality comes up and need to be addressed. Now, let us try to understand there is a huge discussion and debate on in the current scenario about the sustainable development goals. We also call it as SDGs. For the first time globally, a goal on inequality is included in sustainable development goals. Means we need to understand how international forum or international community is really worrying about the inequalities are happening or occurring across the globe. So, first time they have put it in sustainable development goal. Goal 10 of SDGs about reduction of inequalities within or among the countries. So, the goal 10 of sustainable development goals talks about how to reduce or reduction can be happen with regarding to inequality even within the countries as well as among the nations. And target 1 of goal 10 says by 2030 progressively achieve and sustain income growth of bottom 40% of the population at a rate of higher than national average. Means the people who are living below 40%, they should be need to be brought up. The goal is fixed for 2030. The second target we need to understand it is to try to achieve more ambitious one this goal by 2030 empower and promote social, economic and political inclusion of all. Means there is a system to be provided to inclusion, whether it is socially or economically or politically. Here in sustainable development goals they spoke about all means what? Irrespective of age, means all people. Sex means there should not be any gender disparities, means men and women and all third transgender, everybody will be given equal opportunity, they will be included, and disabled people, particularly disabled people also included in this target, and race, ethnicity also included, and origin and religion. So, we need to understand this target, it is a very wider one, but however, to achieve social, economic equality, the target of sustainable development goal need to be achieved. So, now we will try to understand the rising inequality has social cost and lead to reduction in economic growth. For example, if we do not touch it, we do not work on it, the rising of this inequality has social cost and lead to reduction in economic growth of a particular country or a region or a place. Hence, the governments at union level and state level and local level has to think, they have to think on this, and they have to work on more interventions with regard to socio-economic inequalities and address them accordingly. Thank you.